Alpha Omega, Part 8. Now consider Alpha and Omega. There is a great lesson to be learned by observing the two great occupational diseases of mankind. If you keep too many cats, you will never see the free bird fly. If you keep too many dogs, you will never even hear the free bird sing. The pressure of flowers days the day before it swans. The pleasure of swans nights the night before it flowers. And who undrowns the human wreck of heart when all eyes mirror, black to black, as thoughtless holes among the stars? The who of that is only me. Therefore, I call you to hear me and to see me, and thus, by means of my avatarically self-transmitted divine transcendental spiritual grace, to realize the freedom of my heart. I reveal to every one and all the divine reality way that intrinsically transcends the faults of the alpha strategy, or the effort to return or strategically escape to the beginning or to the presumed perfectly object-excluding source of conditional causes and conditional effects. I reveal to every one and all the divine reality way that intrinsically transcends the faults of the Omega strategy, or the effort to proceed or strategically escape to the end or to the conditional perfection of conditional causes and conditional effects. I reveal to every one and all the divine reality way of what and who is always already the case, the divinely avatarically self-revealed by me to be the inherent and self-evidently divine tacit self-apprehension of being itself, prior to and intrinsically transcending, and yet in the apparent context of arising conditions, perfectly coincident with conditional causes and conditional effects, whether at the beginning or at the end, or in the infinite span between. I call my devotee to intrinsically or always priorly transcend the psychophysical self. I call my devotee to intrinsically or always priorly transcend the alpha tendencies and the omega tendencies of body and mind. I help my devotee to learn the divine reality way that neither strategically avoids nor strategically exploits the body-mind self, all others, or any part or even the totality of conditional existence. My devotee must, by means of my avatarically self-transmitted divine transcendental spiritual grace, learn the divine reality way of me. I am the self-evidently divine person, or intrinsically egoless self-nature, self-condition, and self-state of reality itself. I am the only one of all and all. I am always already only love bliss, or true and inherently free happiness itself. My devotee must, by means of my avatarically self-transmitted divine transcendental spiritual grace, learn true self-restraint, or appropriate restraint and love bliss conductivity of the body-mind self. My devotee must, by means of my avatarically self-transmitted divine transcendental spiritual grace, learn ego-transcending surrender to my self-evidently divine love bliss. My devotee must, by means of my avatarically self-transmitted divine transcendental spiritual grace, learn the total psychophysical surrender that transcends the self-contraction and that transcends avoidance, reaction, and bondage relative to every kind of experiential and necessarily conditional pain and suffering, and that transcends anxious seeking and self-indulgence, and that also transcends avoidance and suppression relative to every kind of experiential and necessarily conditional pleasure. My devotee must first have heard me by listening to me, or I will not be seen. Therefore, my every devotee must first be my listening devotee, who grows to hear me and see me in and by means of the intrinsically, tacitly, and always immediately ego-surrendering, ego-forgetting, and ego-transcending radical, or always at the root process of devotional communion with me. Instead of merely avoiding or contracting from arising conditions, objects, thoughts, and impulses, and instead of merely indulging in or going with arising conditions, objects, thoughts, and impulses, my truly ego-transcending devotee simply merely beholds me, and only thus, and thereby tacitly or non-strategically observes, understands, and directly transcends conditions, objects, thoughts, impulses, and ego I or self-contraction itself. Eventually, by means of my avatarically self-transmitted divine transcendental spiritual grace, my devotee stands perfectly egolessly as the witness consciousness, most ultimately perfectly realizing the egoless transcendental spiritual space, wherein point of view in all conditions, objects, thoughts, impulses, pains, sufferings, and pleasures arise and pass away. Therefore, my perfect practice devotee always, by means of my avatarically self-transmitted divine transcendental spiritual grace, communes with me, and in, by, and as this devotional communion with me, my perfect practice devotee self-locates and perfectly knows my divine love bliss, my divine freedom and divine person, and thus and as such, the inherent perfect and perfectly subjective and perfectly egoless and perfectly acausal self-nature, self-condition, source condition, and self-state that is reality itself, wherein all conditions arise at the beginning, persist or change in the meantime, and pass away at the end. My perfect practice devotee is an integral, or whole and complete, and wholly with me integrated, or whole bodily to me conformed, renunciate, a non-dualistic, or singly inspired renouncer of the subjective ego and of the objective world, and thus an ego and world renunciate, who is bound neither by the search to return, nor by the search to hold on, nor by the search to change or proceed. My perfect practice devotee does not seek to avoid or to strategically escape conditionally manifested existence, nor does my perfect practice devotee seek to indulge in or to perfect conditionally manifested existence. Rather, my perfect practice devotee intrinsically, tacitly, and always presently transcends conditionally manifested existence. Therefore, my perfect practice devotee stands free in me. My perfect practice devotee does not turn away or flee from the conditional reality. My perfect practice devotee does not submit to the conditional reality. My perfect practice devotee does not submit to the conditional reality. My perfect practice devotee always turns to me and is with me, the avatarically self-revealed divine and only one who always already is. When perfectly ego-transcending devotional transcendental spiritual communion with me is most perfect in demonstration of the self-existing love bliss of intrinsic being, such that the self-radiant fullness of my divinely avatarically self-transmitted brightness shines faster and further than the beginning and the end of desires. Divinely perfect indifference will have self-awakened relative to conditional existence, without even the slightest motive otherwise to seek to avoid or strategically escape conditional existence. Then all and all will be resolved and outshined in my bright, divine self-light. Da.